when Kiss ruled the world.
Back in 1974, Kiss were still pretty green.
Our parents were the ones driving us to the airport. I don't think they had any idea what they were transporting their kids to. It wasn't summer camp.
The first tour was mayhem, pretty much.
We called it the dartboard tour. Somebody put a blindfold on, threw a dart on the map of the United States and said, wherever that dart lands, that's your next gig.
Even though we were the opening act, and even though we were very nice and thanked everybody for bringing us out on tour, we had a take-no-prisoners attitude.
We opened for Billy Preston once. We finally got a big gig, and he was so pissed at Gene spitting blood on the stage that night that we were thrown off the show.
We would play with English blues bands. We would play with folk acts.
We were playing anywhere we could. You'd go into a town and people would look at you like, what?
Not everyone in town embraces four tall, leather-clad, painted-faced guys from New York, you know?
We played Alabama, and Ku Klux Klan had these huge posters, hide your children, Kiss is coming to town. And so immediately Bill goes, we're going to do this show, and we're going to stay in one room, and we're going to lock the doors and put the furniture up against the doors, and we did.
When we would go on stage, I would look out there, and there would be people hysterical laughing at us.
Nobody knew who the hell we were. It took a couple of songs to win the crowd over.
A special guest tonight, Kiss.
When I saw Kiss on stage, I knew that they were something special.
We started to build quite a following.
Kiss came out and just blew everyone away because of the makeup, the loudness, the in-your-face attitude that they had.
The breadbasket of the country, that Midwest, was a rock and roll haven. They loved their rock and roll.
The Midwest is very work-oriented, blue-collar, and I think what they appreciated about Kiss is that they absolutely went out on stage and worked their tails off to give you a good show.
I think people were curious. We weren't the first group to ever wear makeup, but we were the first group to take it to the extreme that we did.
You show us everything you've got.
The music was solid, but I mean, the show made up for whatever the music lacked.
Whoever you talk to, whoever anybody spoke to, you got to see these guys. I mean, the bass player spits fire. You know, there are bombs going off all over the place.
Shooting drumsticks and fog machines and little trip lights and levitating drums.
Initially, I wanted the drum rides to go up where you wouldn't see anything underneath. It would kind of levitate off the ground. He'd have loved the idea until we actually built it.
Wherever we would play, we'd get like 20 of the biggest, strongest guys, and there was 2 ropes behind where they'd have to pull me up. So the drums would kind of like sometimes, if they were drunk, half of them, they would kind of go up like this, and I would be like, oh, we're going to fall. The early stuff was so unsafe, but we were unsafe.
Get the firehouse!
One of the big hazards for Gene in particular was the actual kerosene that he uses for that fire-breathing trick.
Breathing fire has its repercussions.
One of the early days, he swallowed a mouthful of kerosene. He made it through the set, bravely enough, and we took him to a hospital. The doctors gave him something called Ipecac.
The unfortunate thing is I didn't realize when I first took it that all the liquids didn't just come out of my mouth. They also came out the back end.
As far as the headliners, everybody hated us. They didn't want us to use our special effects, and we couldn't do this, and we couldn't have a sound check.
Major groups would say, no, we don't want Kiss. No, definitely not that makeup band. And their manager would say, but if you have the makeup band, we'll sell out and you'll make more money.
There were times when the headline act would come over and say, listen, JR, you really don't want to go on after these guys. We'll act as special guests tonight. You guys close the show.
Kiss was opening for Black Sabbath, and Geezer Butler, the bass player of Sabbath, comes over and stands next to me. And I was being who I am on stage. And I went, yeah, how you doing? Wow! And he ran off. Ozzy, in retrospect, later came back and said, that's when I knew Black Sabbath days were over. Because when you let the opening band spook you, it's just a matter of time.
Rock and roll!
We were on tour all the time. I was a 24-hour whore. All I ever thought about was sex. I couldn't wait to get off stage so I could go back to the hotels and do the encores.
As far as Gene, really, he didn't have a whole lot to do to occupy his time at 1 o'clock in the morning in Podunk, wherever, you know. He was on a constant prowl.
The maid came to clean the room. I did her. I went to get a checkup. The nurse was there. Boom, did her. There wasn't a girl that was off limits. And I enjoyed every one of them.
A lot of the groupies were just blown away by the spectacle. Women would drive hundreds of miles overnight from gig to gig.
You know, Gene's trademark where he would do his point and all that, that was the trigger. It was part of the show, but he incorporated that into identifying what he wanted.
If I saw a girl in the audience, I'd look over to my roadie, 14-3. 14 rows, 3 from right to left, you go 3, bring that one back.
These guys, you know, they were wild.
We were pretty full of ourselves. We thought we were quite big, and we were going to do a photo shoot, so we put on our outfits and proceeded to walk to Central Park.
And we're just trotting through Central Park like it's nothing.
And we went with the idea of freaking people out and getting these great reaction shots. We got reaction shots. It looked like an old woman was looking at her canaster partner.
Only in New York will you see that, where you can walk by somebody with Kiss makeup on and there'll be no reaction.
She looked good, she looked hotter than hell.
The back cover shot that appeared on the Hotter Than Hell album got so out of hand and crazy.
Norman Seeff was the photographer chosen to shoot the album cover. He came up with this idea of a Fellini-esque scene. Had people dressed like birds, had women painted silver, and only had thongs on. I remember thinking, this is great, but it calls for being a little looser.
The photo shoot turned in to like the biggest party in the world.
You know, there was guys kissing girls, girls kissing guys, guys kissing guys, girls kissing girls. Yeah, everything went at that photo shoot.
I had this girl with some sort of a head on her, and then Paul was in some bed with some other girl. I think Gene's the only one who didn't get drunk that night with us because he doesn't drink.
It was decided that I would be less dangerous to myself if I were locked in a car. To be in such sad shape that someone could actually lock you in a car and you couldn't figure out how to get out lets you know the kind of shape I was in.
These guys had this aura and this feeling that they were the biggest thing. They were the next big thing. I remember Peter telling me, we're doing really great. I was thinking, they're really not doing that great.
Unfortunately, the first 3 albums really never sold very much.
There was a great disparity between how many people were coming to see us live and how many people were buying our albums. And people would tell us, you know, your albums don't sound like what you are live. You know, they don't capture what you are.
So we basically decided to do a live record.
They always wanted things to sound bigger and bigger and bigger, larger than life, which is, that's their philosophy. And I thought, well, this is pretty cool. They may not be the greatest musicians in the world, but with a little work, we can make this into something.
The hottest band in the land, Kiss!
We recorded a lion's share of Kiss Alive at Cobo Hall in Detroit.
When they did that live recording, that was it. That blew the lid off.
You could see it in the picture of what it must have been like to play that night. You could feel the energy. It was just magic, man. It was really magic.
Kiss is a band that needs to be seen to be heard. This allowed you to relive that concert experience time after time after time after time.
The record explodes. A double album goes gold, platinum, double platinum, triple platinum, just kept going.
We had no idea what we had created. That was really the rocket that took off and started the Kiss explosion, or Kissteria, full bloom.
Coming up, Main Street gets a makeover.
It was like another planet. It was like our planet. Everyone looked like us. It was like Kiss World.
Next on When Kiss Ruled the World.